How many times will you draw this position instead of winning? That's a winning position, but the reason why you draw in this position is that you love checks too much. And you always give these checks because you think it's gonna improve your position, or at least I think it allows you to not think. When you give a check, you're kind of forcing the move. The king has to move. So you feel like this, that you're reducing the amount of variations that you have to calculate. Pure laziness, careful. Now if you give a check and try to bring the king, this position, it's already a draw. There is nothing you can do. You bring the king because you think that you're gonna checkmate like this when he comes to the back rank after this move. And of course, if your opponent is a total beginner, he may blunder here because he loves material too much. And he loves queens in chess. So he queens and he gets checkmated like this. But a better player understands and sees the checkmate on the next move with the rook, so he gives you a check with the knight. He promotes, he under promotes to a knight. Now there is nothing you can do. He gives you another check. You move the king, he gives you another one. You go here, I don't care, I go here. And there is nothing you can do to actually win this position. That's a totally drawish position. But this position was totally winning for white. But there is no way you can find this move if you didn't study it first, because it's totally counterintuitive. King f6. This is totally insane. All you're doing, you feel like all you're doing is just putting the king on the side that doesn't do anything. But there is a mission, and the mission of this king is to come this way, on the side, and you go always on the short side of the pawn, this way. Let me show you how it works. Sometimes chess is weird. He pushes, you bring the king again. You see, our first instinct is to move this rook, but it doesn't achieve anything. He pushes, you bring the king again. You didn't move your rook since the beginning, and bring again the king. When he comes here, be careful because he's gonna queen and draw on the next move, but you're on time with your king and you control this square, and next move the rook is coming to f1 and then the rook is taking this pawn and you win the game. Can you believe black is not losing this position? You only have a pawn and your opponent has that rook. But still, there is a way to draw this position. But you all make the same mistake. You start by pushing the pawn, which loses on the spot. But Chesscape, why does it lose? I'm supposed to actually try and go and queen with my pawn. If there is one moment where you're supposed to call this piece, a king is in the endgame. Let me first show you how you lose. You push this pawn, and now your opponent cuts you off. He controls now the 5th rank, and there is nothing you can do with your king, who's now in prison, forced to stay in this territory. But yes, I could actually just push my pawn here, and I'm fine. The only problem here is that you bring the king. And if you're playing with white here, all you have to do is wait for this king and this pawn to be separated by 2 columns. When this happens, you attack the pawn. Let me show you. Now, there is 2 squares separating this king from this pawn. The first mission was to cut the king. Second mission, whenever the pawn is far away from the king, at least 2 squares, now all I have to do is attack the pawn. Because this pawn cannot be protected by the king, which means he only has one option if he wants to survive, which is going forward. Forward, like someone would say. And now you just come with the rook behind it, and on the next move, the pawn is gone. And I'm pretty sure that you know how to checkmate with a rook. I hope. Like this. But I believe that I trapped you, because this position, my friend, is a draw. The only reason why you lost is because you pushed the pawn. And the best move in this position is to actually bring the king first. You don't let this rook cut you off from the board. You don't let this rook do whatever she wants. Now it makes a big difference. Let me show you. The king comes. Now you push. But you see what difference it makes? The king comes, you push again. The king is trying to actually come and put pressure on us. You push. When the rook attacks, there is only one square separating the king from the pawn, which means I'm allowed with my king to protect the pawn on the next move. And this brings me a draw. I'm threatening to queen. He only has one move here, which is bringing the rook to try and control this square. But my king is coming to the rescue. And now the king controls the square, and you're forced to just give checks, pathetic checks, until you decide that it's too late, and you give up the rook for the pawn, and it's a draw.